This is quite intimidating. I was sitting here a few years ago and listening to some of the topper talks. So I'm glad to be on the other side. I know how it is preparing and struggling. So you may have listened to a lot of topper strategies and what to do and stuff. So to keep it slightly different, we'll talk about what not to do. Because you must have heard, this is my 5th attempt. That means I failed 4 times earlier. So I could be of use to you by saying about all the mistakes that I did, so that you may not do those mistakes and you can make the best use of the little time that you have. I just noted down all the mistakes I did over the past 4 years so that I can be crisp and quick. I just have 6 or 7 broad points that we can discuss. The first thing is do not read too much. We might be thinking that we need to read a lot of things. So wherever possible, cut down on the trash, what is not needed. So all of us read the basic books that we read for every subject. So keep that limited and keep revising that multiple times. Just don't run around content. Take it from me, content and knowledge base is not what determines your rank in this exam. It's your innovation, it's your creativity, it's your ability to take risks, both in your preparation and in the exam. So until you understand that, you will be chasing behind the content, this notes, that notes, let me write a little bit more, this value addition, that value addition. Yes, they're all important, but they're only 30% of the marks they're going to fetch you. The 70% is you, just the distinct you. So focus on that. How can I stand out? So right from the day one, keep this in mind. How can I stand out from others? Because at the end of the day, the examiner in the mains is going to check so many papers. So keep that, never forget that. And do not read too much, never read too much. And how do you know that you're reading too much? Every single line or a paragraph you read, you should be where can I use this? How many marks would I get if I read this and use that somewhere? That ruthless you have to be. You're not here to do PhD or anything. You don't have to care if you have completely understood the subject. You have to understood as much so that you can go and write a decent answer and present it well. So please don't read too much. I read too much, a lot. That's not useful. That never got me anywhere. So read how much ever is needed. How do you know? Focus on syllabus, previous year's questions. So what I developed a thumb rule over the years. For any syllabus topic in either optional or general studies, I would have one A4 size sheet. And that's my notes for that. And I would organize these notes also in very crisp points as to what is this subject, what does it explain, very brief points, and why is it relevant, how can I apply this elsewhere. If there's a question on this topic, what should my introductions and conclusions be? So for every syllabus topic in GS and optional, I had introductions and conclusions ready. So if you tell me any topic, let's say separation of powers or anything, so I already have conclusions and introductions ready. So no matter what they ask on that, my introduction and conclusion are the same. The body will curate it as per the demand of the question. So this helps you cut down on the time. So make a Excel sheet or whatever for all the syllabus topics and have your introductions and conclusions ready. You should not be searching here and there. It's very easy to think of introductions and conclusions. So the first rule is do not read too much. The second thing is the current affairs. I'm sure most of you might be finding it difficult as to how to manage this current affairs, which at a point will feel like an end in itself. So I was there when I was trying to read monthlies and then revise them, underline them, and then put them in the cupboard and then take it out again, revise them, make notes out of them, whatnot. But see, please understand the current affairs is only 30% of the mains, maximum I would say 30% from my assessment of at least past few years. So like do not give 70% of your time to that. And this is the first thing. So understand how much current affairs is important. 70% is still your static where you need to have command. So that's the first point. And the second point with current affairs is don't read everything, every damn thing happening in the world. If you look at UPSC previous papers, be it in the prelims or in the mains, UPSC never asks obscure stuff. They always ask things that we see around us, but somehow we miss them because we are busy reading the monthlies or some other random things. So try to understand what are the kinds of things that UPSC asks for current affairs and make a list of those things. So after 2 attempts, I understood this. Like there's nothing coming out of chasing the monthlies or like current affairs compilations or whatever. So for every paper, I made like a list of 30 or 35 most probable CA topics that could be asked in the mains exam. So this was what I fixed. Like I'm not going to read more than 30 CA topics for let's say GS1 or GS2, GS3. And if I were to add another topic to that list, then I used to remove one topic. So I cut down on the amount of current affairs I was doing. And for these current affairs, what I did was I made very short notes. So I used many sources to make that short note for those current affairs. But the thing is, it's just those 30 that I selected, which I felt are very likely to be asked in the exam. And both in my mains as well as interview, most of the questions related to current affairs came from this. And secondly, when you do this, what happens is you have very few topics to prepare and you'll revise them extensively again and again because they're very few to begin with. And since they are on your memory like all the time, you can also use them as examples or you can extract the best out of them. For one paper, you study like 30-35 current affair topics and then you decide to use them in essay everywhere in other papers, wherever you can, like incorporate them. So my idea here is read few current affairs, but like very important ones. How do you know which are very important? If you care to read the newspaper every day, just go through the newspaper, you see like some things are like they keep happening, and you anyway have your previous year's questions on your table, syllabus on the table, so you can relate. Okay, G20 is an important topic. This could be asked in multiple papers in multiple dimensions. So let me just brainstorm like what all should I prepare for G20? What is G20? And why is India's presidency so relevant? These are the questions that should prop up in your mind when you are preparing or making note on any current affairs topics. Like be very deliberate, active, not passive. Don't just open a current affair compilation and keep reading. So look at the topic. Okay, G20 is an important topic. So let me ask myself 5 or 6 questions on this. What is G20? Like, why is this relevant? Why is India's presidency relevant? How can India use this to further its, image and whatever goals it has? And international relations connected to what is happening, like center state. Because if we see G20, most of the meetings are happening in different states of the India, which also shows, the idea that G20 meetings are happening here, I can also use it in federalism topic. So if you're very conscious, you will use whatever little information you have in multiple ways, and this is where creativity and your innovation comes up, and this is what makes you stand out. Not the fact that you have read and extensively revised some monthly compilations. So try to be very deliberate, active and smart with current affairs. Don't read too much. Just read only the most important topics and then write only that. And maybe, and the next thing is, since you're in the initial stages, I assume, because you're here taking coaching, please do not neglect the practice part. I can understand that you're just making your notes and everything, but when you're close to the exam is approaching, focus on practice. See, this is a competitive exam at the end of the day. And in a competitive exam, what matters is how efficiently you're able to perform on that day. So you should practice to such an extent that you're in autopilot mode on the day of the exam. Like, your mind does not need stimulation or anything to, let the answers come out. So you should practice to that extent. So for practice, we have two things, prelims and mains. So for prelims, what I used to do is, I used to pick any two test series, and I used to go subject wise first and then full length. So this is what worked for me, and I feel is like foolproof. But what is also important with prelims test series is, you may take a test, like some people take like hundreds of tests, but that's not, but what is more important is, are you revising those tests? So every test that I did for prelims, I made sure that I was revising it at least 2 or 3 times before going to the final exam. So let's say today morning I sit and take a prelims test. I take the test for 2 hours like the actual test it is, and I'll analyze it and I'll go through it, which takes another 2.5 hours easily. So my 4.5 hours is gone for this work. So this I do it in the morning session. And now, so my first revision of this test is done. And then I'll mark the day for next revision, which is 1 week from today. So again, 1 week from today, I'll open that paper and I'll just go through it. Okay. I'll just keep revising whatever is there in the paper, and I'll put it back. And then again, 1 week from then, this is the third time I'm picking up my paper. I'll pick up that paper and I'll once again go through it. And now there could still be things that I don't remember, or I don't get, or I feel like are very important that I need to revise just before going to the exam. So I take a sheet of paper and I call this my error list. So I write in that, like whatever small points, and then I throw away that booklet, test paper. So this may feel like a very laborious thing, but if you have everything in an Excel sheet, it's very easy. Like this won't even take like more than 2 months or 2.5 months to do this process. And I do not think about prelims in the rest of the year. It's only like 2.5 months before the prelims exam that I think about it. So you have like 2 test series. If you're comfortable with one, then do one. But the idea is like every paper you do, you have to revise it like again and again. So put all of that in an Excel sheet and have your schedules ready. So if you have taken a test, you should know when is its first revision, when is its second revision and third revision, and you're done. So it may feel like a lot, but it's very interesting to do it this way. And there is like scientific evidence which shows that if you recall things that you read or revise things you read at regular intervals, regular spaced intervals, you're more likely to retain it rather than you let it flow away. And so that's the prelims. And mains also, just try to take more tests, be open to criticism. I've seen like a lot of people, and including myself, initially I was very afraid to attempt mains answers, thinking that I need a lot of knowledge, or I need a lot of content, or that I'm not ready to write. See, they're general studies. And don't be intimidated by the question. The question can be anything. You interpret it as how you understand it with your sense of rationality, and you attempt it. Just focus on how to whatever this should be your mantra all the time. Whatever little how can you extract the maximum out of it? So that applies for mains answers as well. So you take some whatever knowledge you have and you try to extract the best. You present it in a better way. You like I said before, your introductions and conclusions should be beforehand, like prepared beforehand. There is no question here. You cannot sit in the exam and think, okay, what introduction can I write? It's just easy if you have it beforehand, and the questions come from the syllabus. So it's very easy to make introductions and conclusions. It's just that nobody gives it so much thought. So do that, and it worked for me this time. So mains answers, just try to see how can you present it better, and go through the topper copies and see what is it all of them have done in common. So when I looked at like 10 papers or so, I noticed that they do not have much content. The knowledge base is not very deep or wide, but what they're doing is they're opening up the topic. So whatever be it, even when they give like 5G, they will connect it to something to do with culture. How this can be used to revive maybe some traditional crafts or arts or whatever. The idea is learn to open up the dimensions. until you stop chasing the content or knowledge base, you cannot develop this ability to open up the topic. Just think about it. We are all graduates and we have common sense. We went to school and we studied, and this much is enough to think. But the thing is, we are so bogged down by everything and so much content, so much information, so much chaos that we forget to think in the middle of all of this. So have that trust in yourself that you can think, you can open up the topic, and you can write by opening it up. So just believe in yourself and be very smart, and no content heavy, just be innovation heavy. Okay, that is the third part. All right, and the fourth part is, I hope you all clear in the first attempt, no doubt there. But for some of you, you may not be able to, clear. Do not give up. What happens is, I'll play out two scenarios. The first thing is, you give like one attempt, two attempts, and then you give up, just let me go away because this is not happening. So the other part is even dangerous. So you remain in the cycle, you keep writing again and again, but you become complacent. So you think that you already know, if there's any topper talking, or I already know everything, what will I go and listen? I know how to write, I know how to do. So don't become complacent, just try to keep improving and improving. It can get difficult, like from my experience itself, sustaining yourself for that long can be difficult, but the only thing that makes the whole process interesting is keep learning, try for, what can I do better, what did the toppers do this year, that seems to have fetched them marks. Always be on the active mode, never be on the passive mode. And you should always try to be like, how can I extract more marks? Okay, this time I got so many X number of marks, I failed. What can I do to get more marks? So this should be your way. And do not normalize failures. It's okay to fail one or two. I'm not saying that you should fail, but I'm just saying that if you fail, it's fine. It's an exam at the end of the day. Don't make it like a larger than life picture. It's an exam. It's a government exam that you're appearing for. You clear, you do not clear, UPSC has given you attempts. But try to learn from the mistakes that you're making. Just tell yourself that I will never make a mistake second time. There was a essay in 2022. You never step in the same river twice or something. It's the same thing, like you don't make the same mistake again. Tell yourself that whether it's prelims, whether it's mains, whether it's overall strategy, you're not going to make the same mistake again. So that way, you'll cut down on the mistakes and you'll learn from them and you'll quickly move ahead. So do not don't stigmatize setbacks or failures. It's okay to fail, completely all right. Just learn from there. Failure teaches a lot. While, success tends to get to your head, but I feel failure teaches you. Just learn. Okay, and maybe some other general things since you must be in Delhi because you're taking here, coaching here. So do not ignore your mental health and physical health. The process, this can be a very sedentary preparation process, and I strongly believe that mind and body are connected. So if you're not in good physical health, your mind will get impacted as well, and also your mental health also. See, always keep telling yourself, it took me couple of years to tell myself that it's only an exam, that it's not my life, and that not clearing this exam or clearing this exam is not going to determine who I am. So please keep telling yourself that. That's important to keep your mental hygiene and not take everything so personally, or not to get scared, get afraid if your friend is studying too much or things like that. So keep telling yourself that, and please be aware of your how your mental health is, so that the whole preparation should be joyful. It should not be too stressful and burdenful. So focus on that as well. Please don't ignore your physical and mental health. They are equally important. I learned the hard way. Since I'm here, I'm telling you. Just focus on them. They will in fact determine the confidence with which you're writing your answers, or the way you're presenting yourself in the interview or personality test stage. So use the journey to become a better person, like develop your personality as well. And another thing, social media, like I get asked a lot, like how to do it. Well, there is a school of thought which says that you can manage both. You can have all the engagements in social media possible and also balance your preparation. But I don't think that's possible in the preparation phase, because I've been in that. I can tell you, it makes you very insecure and vulnerable. I was very underconfident because I was failing again and again. You can be insecure, you can be questioning yourself on a daily basis as to what am I doing wrong, or is this the right career choice? So my point is, yes, these are all of these happen on a daily basis, not like occasionally once in 6 months or so. So we are very vulnerable, and social media tends to play on these vulnerabilities. So you see others progressing in their chosen fields. You only see the progress, not the struggle behind. So you assume they are progressing, I'm not. Or for the simple reason that it could be, we could be scrolling mindlessly and stuff. So if possible, just stay away from social media and focus on it, and develop a healthy peer group, so that you can do. And talking about peer group, like do not isolate yourself. This is not what you should do. Like, do not isolate yourself, but find a healthy peer group. Being in ORN, I can understand how difficult it is to find a healthy peer group. But if you once find your right peer group, it's only a matter of time till you clear the exam. So I was lucky to find a peer group. So just put some effort there. See who do you match your frequency with. See who is preparing smartly. And so find a peer group. I found my peer group in ORN itself, which built over the years. But I found my basic first peer group for this exam in ORN itself, and we all cleared the exam. So just find a very healthy peer group and study together. It shares the burden of making notes or whatever. So have a peer group. So that's it from my side broadly. I'm sure you must have heard a lot on strategies and what to do and what not to do. But I would say, to sum it up, please own up the process. Everything should be your own. Own up your failures, own up your setbacks, own up your strategy. Be very active, deliberate, and ruthless, okay? You need marks, nothing more, nothing less. Do not read anything that won't fetch you marks, okay? It's not important if you have understood the topic to the point that you can write a thesis paper. No, you have to write a 250-word answer. So always be on the chase for marks. How can I get more marks? If I'm reading a paragraph, if I'm reading an article, do not just read the newspaper, essay. Try to see, okay, if I'm reading this, where will this be useful to me? So if this is not useful, then I won't bother reading it. I don't care. If everybody is reading monthly magazines, that doesn't mean I will read. Okay, let me open the monthly magazine. There I find these are 4 or 5 topics that are important from this month. Maybe I'll go through them and make my own note. So be very ruthless. You only care for marks and nothing else. And you should always be, if you actually have this approach, you could understand over time how to work for marks rather than content. But the problem is, we are always running behind the wrong things. More content, better content, or consolidated content, things like that, things that do not matter. What matters is your chase for marks, and just keep thinking, how can you do that, and be very ruthless. So that's it from my side. So if you want to ask me any specific questions, then sure. Oh, right. Okay. So my optional earlier was geography, but somehow I could not score much with geography. So let me tell you about my journey briefly so that you'll have a context. So first 3 attempts I wrote with geography. And I kept clearing mains, prelims. Even in the first attempt, I cleared pre. And in hindsight, that was the worst thing that could have happened to me, because I got stuck in that cycle. So I wrote my prelims, and then I went ahead and wrote my mains with zero understanding, nothing. and I naturally did not clear. And the next year I did the same things again with more intensity, so I failed with greater intensity in the second attempt. So this time, okay, it took me like 2 attempts to question myself, okay, something is going wrong here, like I can't be so dumb, something I'm missing out. So I started evaluating myself a little bit, and then I changed how I was writing, how I was studying basically. So I like threw away all the extra trash that I was having, and I stuck to whatever I talked about earlier, just notes on the syllabus topics and the current affairs that I felt were important. So these I did, and I cleared mains in the third attempt with this strategy. But somehow my optional was pulling me back. I had like less marks on the optional, and I did not clear the third attempt after interview. So I thought, okay, let me go and appear for prelims again, but I failed prelims in the fourth time. So it was like a really, like it was the lowest of the low I could hit, as a academic wise and even otherwise for my health. But then I try to look at the positive side, if I can just do something out of this. And this is when it like struck me, look, this is the right time to change optional. Everybody was against it. So the whole argument was, you spent already so many years, like why do you want to shift? But it was not working out for me. So there was a major risk that I took, the decision that I had to take. It was a difficult decision. But at the end of the day, I went ahead and thought, okay, if this is not working for me, let me just change it. I don't care how many years I put in. All I care is I have to clear this exam. I need more marks in the optional. So I shifted to anthropology. And for anthropology, I prepared by myself. I just stuck to, again, thumb rule, 1 sheet of paper for every syllabus topic. I never cared whether this topic was from general studies or optional, any topic from the paper. If I cannot consolidate into a 1 sheet of paper, that means I have not read it in the right way. So I'll read it again. But I'll make sure at the end of the day, I'll come and summarize it in 1 sheet of paper. And for this also, again, even for anthropology, I had every single syllabus topic. I had the introduction ready, conclusion ready. And these were all like nice, a bit catchy introductions and catchy conclusions. They're not difficult to make. If you give some thought to it, you'll definitely be able to do that. And I prepared the notes, very crisp notes. And even while preparing the notes for anthropology, I kept thinking from the perspective of an answer rather than understanding and summarizing a topic. Okay, if this question were to come in the exam, how can I write it better? How can I stand out? So I incorporated a lot of flow charts, diagrams, even in anthropology paper. So this way, I just stuck to the syllabus and I practiced a lot of previous year's questions. In fact, I used to write the whole length paper of previous years. So that I did, and the practice also helped a lot. Like I wrote quite a few mock tests for anthropology.
As you have told that it's your 5th attempt, so how do you handle just like everyone is asking that how's your preparation, so how would you handle the society and the relatives and the people used to ask that how's your preparation going on?
Right. Firstly, like I am fortunate that I had a very supportive system. Somehow my parents shielded all of that from me so that they don't get to me. But the second thing is, you have to manage yourself first. Be okay with failing and having setbacks. Otherwise, you won't be able to give an answer to others. Like I'll give you an example. In my personality test, the first question the board chairman asked me was, what are you doing for the past 5 years? So that question could have made me insecure, if I let it. So I simply told her, ma'am, I was making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. So that's why it took me long. And she was okay with that answer, and I was just being. So the idea is you convince yourself it's okay. What if you don't clear it in the first attempt, or what's going? You have the time, you have the age, you have the energy. So that. And the second thing is, don't become complacent. So keep trying to search for, how can you learn from your mistakes, and how can I improve, and also to make things like interesting. try to pursue your hobbies. So I always like to learn new things. So I enroll myself in a badminton class, sometimes in a karate class, anything that keeps the process. And also plan well and have monthly targets, weekly targets. I plan a lot. So I had all sorts of targets. So every day when I achieved my target, it was like a pat on my back. So okay, I did this part. So with all of these things, you will learn to manage. But the most important thing is you have to understand, it's my journey. I don't have to emulate anybody else. I'll do it my way. It's my process. Even if I don't clear the exam, I'll be a better person to face the world. So own up the process and tell yourself, it's okay, I'll do it my way. Nothing is going.
Ma'am, when we prepare when we attempt the previous year papers, so there will be the dynamic part. So, but when we prepare for the upcoming examination, our current affairs base is basically 1.5 to 2 years before the paper. So, ma'am, how do we attempt those questions that is 5 years ago?
Okay. So try to attempt them with whatever little knowledge you have. But after attempting that, you will obviously look at the answer and try to know what is there in it, right? And make a small note of it, like write it in a book or something. And now, see, UPSC considers that particular current event of the time as important. Now see if you can use it anywhere else. So that way. So if something is very, very dynamic current affair thing that's no longer relevant now, then just let it go. So others you can try to, that's what I'm saying, like you should practice to a point that irrespective of what is asked, you are able to write a decent answer which addresses the demand of the question. That requires a lot of practice, and don't run away from practice. Your first 100 questions or so that you write may not be they may be very bad, but so what? The one question will get better, and you'll only get better from them. So don't be afraid of practicing those 100 questions. Just even if you do not know the thing, try to write with whatever you know. That's a skill, you have to learn slowly.
So we see that prelims is becoming more and more unpredictable. So how to go through it? I mean, how to overcome that? I just wanted to know your strategy.
Okay, so there are two parts to this. First is doing your basics properly. We all know the basic books, right? Like Lakshmikant for polity. We have NCRT Bipin Chandra for history. I used to do only that Bipin Chandra part for history, the NCRT, and Spectrum ke end mein they have some pages, like summary kind of thing. I tore those pages from Spectrum and I just did that after that. So we all have the basic books, and you have studied those books and you have made short note or whatever note. The basics are done, and that's fine. Now the second part is how do you incorporate the things that you do not know, or the randomest questions that they are throwing at us in the prelims. How do you tackle with that? And this is where practice comes into picture. It is by practicing a lot of exams that you learn how to deal with them. Trust me, nobody has to come and tell you what elimination technique you have to use or how many you should attempt. Over the process of 60 or 70 mock tests that you write, you will learn this. So you will see a drastic change in performance. So what I used to do was, I used to give 5 or 6 days for first history. Let's say I'm starting with modern history. Whichever 2 test series that I pick up, I take modern history questions. So they generally, each test series has 35 questions, if I'm not 35 papers. So modern history gets 2 or 3 sectional tests. So I take 2 or 3 sectional tests from test series 1, and again 2 sectional tests from test series 2. So I have 5 tests. I have 6 days to finish my modern history. So in the morning sessions, I would do the papers, solve the papers. In the afternoon session, I will revise my whatever basics that I've done. So this is what I used to do for every subject. Once I'm done with subjects, I will start with full length tests. Each test series gives me 10 full length tests. So I have 20 full length tests. So once I'm done with all the sectional tests, now I'll start with the full length tests. And the next 20 days, it will be full length tests. And I'm also, like I told you before, these tests should also be revised. So you should have a whole schedule planned as to what you're doing. So this way you can manage. But the key is to when I didn't clear prelims in my 4th attempt, it was actually my Csat that stopped me, not the GS one. So I cleared prelims in all the 5 times that I've taken the test, and this is the key, is practice. Practice, and don't be afraid of what you do not know. Learn from the test series, whatever solution that they provide, Cse. So pick up points from there and make a note of it. In fact, when I was waiting for this result, I was solving mock tests until the day before, because that waiting period it drives you insane, and the only sane thing that you can do is just put yourself in a book or something. Anyway, so I was doing Vajiram ka mock test, and there was this question this year, who had given DU, Daman and Diyuka DU to some Portuguese or something. And I think the answer is Bahadur Shah. So this question, I got it from test series only, and I got it wrong in the test series because I thought Bahadur Shah was a Mughal emperor, and they're talking about emperor here. Okay, this cannot be the answer. But then when I checked my key back then, so I thought, okay, this is Bahadur Shah, and I had written down in my error list, okay, this fact happened, and the same question came in. So it doesn't matter what test series you're doing. So there are a lot of new things you can learn from the test series. Don't be like, oh, this test series has all new things. I did not read any of this. Let me go back and read and then come back and do test series. It's okay if you do not know. It's okay if you know just 30 or 40, but make sure once you've analyzed the test, you have gone through all the new stuff, and you'll revise, and then you'll pick up the new points. So you can go about like this.
Myself, I'm not a mathematics person, purely humanities student. So what could be the strategy to tackle CSAT?
I think CSAT is becoming tricky even for those from technical background. I graduated from an IIT and yet I could not clear CSAT in the 4th attempt. So everybody don't take CSAT for light. And I think CSAT, just don't stick to, I will answer only math questions, or I will answer only English questions, or I'll answer only logical reasoning. Try to put your hand in all the 3 types of questions and pick the easiest questions. You only have to get the qualifying mark, so pick those. And second thing, there are always certain types of questions coming in: clock problems, averages, or cube problems, some permutations and combinations, arrangement problems. You go through the test papers, you take last 5 years ka CSAT papers and analyze what kind of questions are coming. You will find there are almost 10 or 11 types of questions that keep coming up. And now that you have sorted out what are these types of questions, go find out how to solve them in very less amount of times. There are always formula, shortcuts, or whatever. Just go and search on the YouTube. But now you would have known how to solve those 10 types of questions within a matter of few minutes. So with that you can manage. With this you can manage to get the qualifying score. Okay. So the mistake I did with the classes was I did not relate what was being taught in the class to the syllabus or the previous year's question. So whatever you study in the class, your focus should be, you should be very clear, okay, what I'm studying today belongs to this syllabus topic, and in this syllabus topic so and so previous questions have been asked. So once the teacher is done with that topic, am I able to understand this topic in decent way, and am I able to answer those previous year's questions? So if you're this conscious about what is being taught in the class and not treat class notes as an end in itself, the end is the actual exam, and the only guiding lights that we have are previous year's questions and syllabus papers. So whatever is being taught in the class, you relate to that, and I did not do that. I used to just read class notes as an end in itself, which is the worst thing that you can do. Okay, so any coaching institutes, they help you only to the extent of 20 to 30%. The rest has to come from you. That is what makes you stand out in the actual exam. You don't have to write each and everything the sir is saying. Once you're clear, okay, that is why you should understand how to make notes in general. So if you're making notes on any topic, any topic from general studies or your optional subject, you should have some pointers on which you make notes. Like, what is this topic about? Why is this important? Everything should be in the crisp bullet points. And how is this relevant? So if you have such pointers beforehand, so whenever the teacher is talking something relevant to those pointers, you will note it down. The rest you don't have to note down, right? So be very conscious of how to make notes in the first place. Like, what are the areas that what kind of points you should be writing down. Some of the important things are like the dimensions. If you see a teacher teaching something and then linking it to some other paper or some other thing, note that down, because that's important. The more you open up a topic, the more marks you'll get. And application part. So let's say there's a class going on quantum computing or artificial intelligence. So if you look at the previous year's questions, so they asked the application part on this, particularly on agriculture and health. These two areas, the application they've asked. Even otherwise, application in any other area is also important. So if that is being taught, they may teach you like a lot of things, but you understand the topic, like, very briefly, what is this about? If there's a question on AI or quantum computing, can I just put, after writing the introduction, can I put in a box some, information? Like with AI, you can say different things within AI, like a flowchart sort of thing. These are all general components of AI, machine learning or whatever. I put it in a box and then I go to the demand of the question. And here when the sir is teaching, you can think about, okay, health, just health, so and so, agriculture, so and so, disaster management, so and so, social issues, so and so, like gender empowerment or things like that. So know what is important, know how notes should be made, so that you can only pick up those points from the lectures. You don't have to like write everything that they're saying. What you feel is important, note that down, and the rest just listen. That's it.
Ma'am, actually I'm facing a lot of problem while doing the current affairs. A lot of time is getting devoted, sometimes 5 hours too. So I just want to know how did you do it? What were your sources? How did you manage time? Did you read the monthly compilations? And how did you integrate it with them? Like, did you make notes on the daily basis? GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, how did you bifurcated them?
Okay. So first thing, I regularly read a newspaper. Like, I never stopped reading newspaper. The first thing I do after waking up is read newspaper over tea, and it's like a habit. And so that, and secondly, I used to read monthlies in the beginning, but I realized the amount of time, like you said, I was putting into it, and the benefit I was getting was simply not logical. So I stopped reading that. Instead, what I did was, like every day I used to read newspaper. If a topic is getting repeated again and again and again, and I feel that's important, I used to make a note of that topic, not even like things picking up from that. So I used to have a current affairs book. So in that, I just, let's say if the G20 topic is coming again and again and again, I used to write G20 as an important topic there. So throughout the month, I used to just write down the topics. And whenever I get time, I used to make notes on those. And again, just one sheet of notes on those topics. And while making this topic, I used to notes, I used to refer to multiple sources, whether it's monthlies or YouTube video or some other source. But the thing is, I used to look at all of that and pick up just what is needed to me. What is this topic? Why is it important? I used to ask these questions. These questions are very important. That is what makes the preparation active and not passive. So you ask, like, what questions I can ask about. A common person, G20, I am a common person. What are the doubts that should come to be? Like, why is the government making such a big deal out of it? Why is it such a big deal internationally? These are some common sensical questions that UPSC tends to ask in the mains exam. So you ask those questions first hand and try to like collect chota points and then like have a note of that. So for 1 month, I used to have barely 10 or 15 topics, like maximum. Okay, but like never more than that. And again, when I'm reading for mains, I used to sort them, like, where are these more relevant. So I used to just write next to the topic, index mein, I used to write, okay, this is more relevant for GS2, GS3, GS3. So that when I'm studying paper wise for the mains, I'll have all the relevant current affairs for that paper at a place. But this is the process I followed. This helped me like cut down a lot of time that I was spending on current affairs, and I was focusing only on the most important things. And since the topics were so few, like 1 month you won't find more than 10 important topics, 10 or 15. And I used to revise them a lot, again and again and again and again. And I used to use them in so many places, like in essay or in ethics or anywhere. So I was never in dearth of examples or value addition points, because I had this current affair things which I was revising again and again. But what happens with monthlies is you have almost like 100 topics there. How will you have them on your fingertips? It's not possible. So that's why be very deliberate. Just do whatever is important. That's it. And the second thing that I did with current affairs was I had a Google Doc. So I put all the syllabus topic there. So I had one document each for GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. I had all the syllabus topics in that doc, one below each, like all the topics. And whenever I found something very interesting or something that I thought, I can if a question comes on this topic from the exam, I am going to mention this. No matter how they frame the questions, I will find a way to incorporate this. So those points I used to write in that doc. These are like high value addition points. And I used to just summarize it in like 1 or 2 lines, that's it, in that document. So when I was like revising finally after prelims for the mains, I only had these things to revise. The current affairs book that I had, and the value addition book that I had, the introductions and conclusions book that I had for all the topics. So these things I was doing. Right. So environment is largely dynamic, like it's current affair oriented. So I made a list of what are the most important environment topics. So climate change or whatever, like we keep reading it, right? So some of the key legislations are always important. There can always be a question on Biodiversity Act or Environmental Protection Act. So these, I made a list of the topics, both from current affairs and from the general understanding that what should a common person preparing for a general study should have command on. There are hardly 15 to 20 topics, such topics, and again I prepared my notes on it. The idea is that like you have to pick up what you think are important for this exam, and how will you know? If you look at the syllabus and previous year's questions. If you look at these two things, you will get an idea of, okay, these are the areas that I should have my notes on. So I'll just make notes on these areas and I'll keep revising them. So I picked up such topics and made notes and revised just that.
Ma'am, what is the basis for demarcating the boundary while writing the GS and optional answer? Ma'am, being as a geography optional student, after writing a good amount of answers, it is difficult to demarcate a boundary while I am writing the GS answers in geography sections. What to pick, what to not pick in GS, and what to include in optional. So it is very difficult, ma'am. So that's why I want to ask these points.
Right. Maybe I am not the right person to ask. I could not do that, and hence I had to, change the optional. But from the understanding I had from anthropology, I can answer. So in optional, try to make it more scholarly or like more, not general. It shouldn't feel generic. So for my subject anthropology, I used to quote a lot of scholars. I used to write a lot of tribal examples or case studies. These things I used to do. Like these are the only things. And I can understand geography is one such subject which tends to be slightly like general studies. But find your way to distinguish. But it's very important to distinguish. Do not write GS answers in geography. It won't fetch you marks. So maybe like look at notes, answer sheets of toppers who cleared with geography, and maybe you'll get a better idea there. Yes.
I just need to ask that how to make sure that what we are learning, the concept, the facts, and even though dynamic part, it remains with us till the pre. Right? How to recheck that we are aware of this topic or we know the information about this. can't we keep it in our mind?
Right, correct. So this is difficult to do when you're reading too much and too many topics. But when you cut it down, so let me say, for example, the current affairs that I was doing, I only had very few topics to begin with. And I used to make sure I'm revising like at least three times. It's called spaced repetition method. Just the idea is you have to like revise it multiple times and not let it go away from your mind. So keep the number of topics limited and revise those limited topics again and again and again. Like how many, at least the thumb rule is 3 times. Anything you read and make a note of, if you can revise it 3 times, then you will reproduce it in the exam. But you can do that when your sources and notes is small. No, if it's like too wide, it's humanly impossible to do it. So keep it short, cut down on the trash. If you feel this is useless, just throw it away. Don't, just because everybody else is doing, you don't have to do it.
Ma'am, as you mentioned that you had geography in the first 4 attempts, so if I could ask, what was the reason behind choosing geography?
I actually did not put much thought into selecting the optional, and that was the mistake that I made earlier. I just looked at the syllabus. They were like mountains, volcanoes and stuff, and I thought, must be easy. I did not look at the length of the syllabus or the human geography part or anything. So if I had done that, maybe I would not have selected. It didn't suit my aptitude. I'm sure like a lot of people do clear with geography. It's just that I could not differentiate it from general studies like somebody was saying. So my answers were all very general studies oriented. In this subject that I choose later, anthropology, the subject itself is not generic. So the risk of being generic reduces to a large extent.
Hello ma'am, congratulations first of all, and thank you for sharing your journey with us. I just wanted to ask about the approach for qualifying language papers. How much to invest, when to invest, and what exactly will be the approach?
So if the language is your mother tongue, then it should not be a problem, right? So maybe if you're slightly not secure about it, just do 1 or 2 papers before. That should be fine. And English is like, if you again find it difficult, just pick up 1 or 2 previous year's papers and see. Because it's a qualifying paper, no. There are some sections where you can easily get marks. So focus on those sections and this. No need to put a lot of time and effort. Just look at 1 or 2 papers beforehand.
Thank you.
Ma'am, first of all, very congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
So my question is how to stay motivated, because at one point of time you feel low on, so how to stay motivated?
Right, there is no one single formula for it, but I'll tell you about things that helped me. First is my aggressive planning, like I plan everything. So if you ask me what I'm going to do on, let's say, August 23rd, I'll tell you what I'm going to do now itself, approximately. So this kind of planning help me not to get overwhelmed. When do you become demotivated? When you think, oh my god, this is so much that I cannot manage. Like how will I go ahead? Once you feel overwhelmed, you want to just push the books away and like open any web series or anything. Right, that's what happens to most of us. So the thing is, we should not get overwhelmed. How do you not get overwhelmed? By planning everything out. So the syllabus can be as huge as it can get. What matters to me today is I finish this much. That's it. And my job is done. What matters for this week is I finish this much. Because I know if I keep at it at this plan, I will finish everything in 4 months. So that is very important. That's why have the plan mapped in front of you. It should be like visible to you every day. That keeps telling you that all I have to do for this today is just this much. And I'm good to go. First thing. And the second thing is peer group. Like a good peer group, when you see your peers studying and you Netflix and chilling, that won't sit well. You will automatically, it gives a sense of accountability. So use that from a peer group. And the third thing is, have a sense of balance. Don't study for 10, 12, 13 hours. Just 7 to 8 hours of quality study is enough. And have other healthy hobbies if you have, whatever hobbies you have, practice that. I used to play badminton. I used to do yoga, like whatever feels right for you, healthy, productive things, just do them and have a sense of balance in life. So these three things, they will get you through to some extent.
Ma'am, how to prepare for personality test?
Personal. Okay, so personality test is earlier I thought it was mains exam in a different format. So mains mein you go and write, personality test mein the same thing you go and speak. It couldn't be like farther from truth. So personality test is a test of personality, not your knowledge. So the syllabus clearly mentions what kind of traits are they looking for you. So please open the syllabus and read those traits and internalize them. And so what I did was I had like 5 small thumb rules as to what should I do. So I decided when I go in the interview, on the panel, I'll be confident, I'll be brutally honest, everything, I'll own up my failures or whatever. I'll be balanced, whatever question they throw at me, however controversial, I will give a balanced opinion, and I will be humble. You know, I'm willing to change, I'm willing to improve. So these 5, and I'll be cheerful. It should not be like a serious question and answer format. It should be an engaging conversation. These 5 things, in fact, I had written on my fingers, 5 fingers, and I said, I'll just do this. So whatever question they were asking me, I looked them from the lens of these, like how can I make sure all these values are communicating through. I did not care for 1 second as to if I was giving the best solution to the Ukraine conflict. So they asked me if the ICC warrant on Mr. Putin will be of any use. I said it won't be of much use because Russia is not a member to ICC statute, but it can create a sense of diplomatic or global pressure on the Russia. So, you know, it's one of the things that we have in our hands, so we can use it. That's why the world is using it. So a sense of like, I did not try to give a very, you know, polished answer. I just said what I felt could be the thing. So 5 thumb rules that I kept for myself, and I made sure in every answer I was communicating this. It did not come immediately. I practiced whenever I was giving any mock interview, I was doing this. I was trying to, so I slowly developed.
Many times comes in my mind, plan B, it's also happened with you.
Yes, I entered. So when I graduated from IIT Hyderabad, and so I thought, okay, my solution to my career problems is going to Delhi. And I thought, okay, 1 year in Delhi, I'll be an IAS. So that's how I entered. I had no plan B. So it's fine not to have a plan B if you have a supporting ecosystem, like at home, if everybody is willing to support your journey. But you can also have plan B, because despite your sincere efforts, you may not clear the exam because the competition is such and the exam is such. So fine, it's just an exam. Yeah? And your graduation is your plan B. You know, if not this, I would have been a civil engineer maybe. So you can have, you cannot have. For some people, not having plan B gives them that motivation. It gave me anxiety. So it's up to you what you want to take.
Ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I have 2 questions. The first is, ma'am, when you wrote the notes, did you wrote in the first reading of the book, or you read the book so many times and after that you make the notes? And the second question is, ma'am, after the coaching, did you stayed in Delhi or you went back to the home?
To answer your second question, I went home like immediately. I could not adjust to the food and the climate here, so, and the cost of living, so I went back. And to the first question, see, you don't have to read a book again and again and make notes. So instead, when you're making, let's say you make, there is this book, Bipin Chandra's history book, 11th or 12th class NCERT. I think it has 13 or 14 chapters. Each chapter is pretty long. So what I used to do is, I used to read a chapter and make a note of it. But the chapter is so huge, it's difficult to, condense it into one sheet of paper. So I used to read the chapter again. So I would read to the point when I'm ready to condense it and write. Otherwise, I've not understood it, like from the point of this exam. So I never read a book again and again, like never. I always made note from it and I read the notes again and again. So develop that ability to properly understand a topic and write notes. So read the same chapter again, but make notes at the end of that. because what happens is it's very unlikely that you're going to come back and read the same book again, the whole book, and let alone like reading, like the point of making notes out of it becomes very laborious.
Ma'am, this economics current affair and IR current affair, how to manage?
Can you repeat the question?
My question is that economics, for example, budget comes in February. It is in midst of that we have every resource, we have made everything, prelims is also there, and we have to manage all these things. So at that point, what to do? Economic survey, budget, all.
Okay, so again, you don't have to read the whole budget document or the economic survey document. You have the compilations, right? Somebody is compiling, you pick up some compilation and you take from, do not take the entire survey. Entire survey is useless, it's not useful for us. Pick up those things from the compilation that you think will be able to use in the exam. Only that much, nothing more is needed. So, okay, these points are important for prelims, so let me just mark them. And this topic or this concept that the survey has talked about, I can use it in the actual exam. So, this year's survey was talking about how female labor force participation rate calculation in India, the process, the calculation is not perfect, and that could be why our numbers are so low, like one of the reasons why the numbers are so low. I found that point to be very interesting. I just saw it in a compilation isme. So I thought, okay, this is something I can use it in multiple papers, GS3, GS1 in the social section. So whatever you feel as useful, you pick that up. Do not read the entire compilation of survey. Just browse through it and see, okay, this is important, I can use, this is important, I can use. That's it. Budget also, likewise. So budget, just pick up like key schemes and everything, and you think where you can use it. Otherwise, just reading will get you nowhere. No, so you think. So there was this scheme for PVTGs, so I'll use it in anthropology, or there was a scheme for wetland conservation something. So if there's any environment question, I'll just write, these kind of schemes are important, very specific that ecosystem related schemes, like one for wetlands, one for, lakes and etc. So be very conscious, pick up only that is needed.
Ma'am, what is your strategy for the GS4 ethics paper? And when it comes to case study, it's very difficult to give a balanced answer. So can you please tell about that?
So for the case studies, I used to download toppers copies, and I used to write, like there are a lot of ethics topper copies, right? So look at the case study in those, and then I used to attempt it on my own, not looking at their answer. And then I used to see how they wrote, and then did that for several case studies. And then I understood, like I developed a sense of, from their answers only, I developed a sense of how to write a balanced case study. And this was something again. So if you properly analyze previous year's questions, case studies are thematic. There are some very specific themes. So for all these themes, I had pre-made introductions and conclusions, like conclusions that included quotes of some philosophers or stuff like that. So with these two things, and the key in ethics is finishing the paper, which requires a lot of practice. So do practice like a lot. Ethics paper is actually very short. If you focus on that paper specifically, it gives you a lot of returns. So focus on that paper specifically and practice. Yeah, section A as well, you have all the syllabus topics, right? Make notes on that. Same strategy as for any other paper, but make sure you're including some examples, some quotes and everything. You don't have to search for them separately. Like when you're reading newspaper, if you feel, okay, this is such a good attitude to have towards life, you pick that up and put it in your that attitude topic. So being like, value adding things and practice. Ethics paper requires a lot of practice to finish it, especially this year's ethics paper, which was really lengthy. So focus on the practice part, and when you're practicing, be like happily use the previous year's toppers copies so that you can evaluate how you're doing.
Ma'am, can you please tell us how to cover GS4 and how to interlink it with current affairs also?
Like that is what I was saying here. Just go topic wise and try to incorporate examples from whatever newspaper that you're reading, and practice a lot, which is like very important.
Ma'am,
Where?
ma'am, could you please share your strategy for anthropology optional as I'm starting from next month, and when it should be completed or finished, ideally?
There is, see again, like if you have to take anything from my journey, like there is no formula. Just do it your way. But just know how to do it. So stick to the syllabus points, make notes from, even if you're taking coaching from anywhere, make sure your notes is organized as per the syllabus. Make sure you have introductions and conclusions, and you should understand properly in anthropology or any optional for that matter. Make sure you're having that understanding, and see if you can utilize some, whatever newspaper you're reading, you can put that in it. So there's no one set of period. You know, I should ideally finish everything. No, it's not. Like, do it at your own pace, but do it right. Because once you do your optional right, like it will really take you places.
Ma'am, when it should be completed?
I think 6 or 7 months should be fine.
And ma'am, what is the role of topper's copy?
So yeah, this is like a resource freely available on the internet. The best thing to do is look at those questions in those copies, write answers, your answers, and then evaluate. That way you immediately know what is that person doing differently from you, and you can keep on changing. So we all practice answers, right? Whatever daily answer writing program or whatever, instead of those you can actually rely on topper copies, the questions that they have, the answers that they have. You write answer, you evaluate, you write answer, you evaluate. That way you are like comparing yourself with some of those who clear the exam with good marks.
Ma'am, what's the right time for joining test series? After the course completed or after the 3-4 months completed?
So it's like once you have finished the syllabus to some extent, then you can. Because if you've not finished the syllabus or made notes, what will you go and write? It can be. So when you're preparing or when you're still in this process, you can maybe make notes, practice answers from the topper copies.
Both test is compulsory for joining, like optional and GS both.
Yes,
we should
yes.
join both test series.
Yes, because see, it's a competitive exam. You have to write a test. Whether you join test series is not a secondary thing. So it's a competitive exam, so you should write as many tests as you can so that you can be on the autopilot mode on that final day.
Which coaching is right best?
Like, see, I keep saying this, it really doesn't matter. If you're sincere, pick up anything. Any of them are equally good or equally bad.
Yes.
So you pick anything and you practice a lot, revise them. Like, it's okay, anything is fine. For prelims, for mains, for anything is fine.
There is another question for and newspaper section. Mostly news is not relevant for the students. We should read the newspaper full completely, or in some portion we should have छोड़ना चाहिए, leave करना चाहिए उसको.
From the newspaper?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, definitely. Read whatever is
full
important.
Completely newspaper. All the news.
See, you have syllabus, you have previous year's questions. Now you look at the newspaper and you just browse through the newspaper, right? Page 1, page 2, page 3. You feel this is important, note it down, or like take a note, mental note. If you feel some days nothing is important, you have nothing to pick up from the newspaper, fine. You have read newspaper like any other Aam Aadmi, and close it and then move on with your life. But someday you can get some really nice point. That day you pick up. Like, don't be so rigid. Like, whatever works, you try to make it work.
No, ma'am, in Telegram, in Waziram portal, some news, relevant news is provided in portal. They are sufficient for the reading, or we should extra reading? Or
There is no like one formula. So for me, reading newspaper worked. So for you, if that portal works, then well and good. So see what works for you. For standard textbooks, I prepared notes from the textbooks. Like you have textbooks for every syllabus. Like paper 2, paper 1, you have syllabus. To some extent. when I was making my notes, not notes but some material I may have used.
Ma'am,
Okay, so see, there is a lot of information on the internet, but pick what you feel is relevant. See, if you're studying a topic, let's say 5G or anything, you should be knowing what you're looking for in the internet. Don't let the internet tell you what you're looking for. So you look for it. So that comes when you look at the previous year's questions, when you practice them, when you look at the syllabus constantly, you know, okay, UPSC never asks this kind of things, so let me just keep them away. But these things, the application of 5G in health is very important for me. So if I can find this information somewhere, so let me note it down. Yeah, right. The idea is just be very active, don't be passive. You pick up what is important for you, what you feel is important. That is what will make you stand out. So whatever you feel important, you pick up.
Ma'am, what should be our approach for essay writing? Like I started my preparation a couple of months back and I feel I don't have enough content for essays.
Then it's okay, don't write essays right away. Then it's okay, just keep looking at the topper essays just to get an idea of how essays are written. If you only look at the previous year's questions, you'll get intimidated by the kind of essays. Just remember, no matter how philosophical the question is, your answer has to be like an administrator answer. So that means you should be able to open up the topic. So how well you can open up the topic, you can get some insights from the topper copies. Just look at them, don't write essays right away. Keep looking at them so that you'll get a sense of, okay, this is how it is done. Always keep looking at topper copies. Essay, when you're bored, just go through them. You will learn a lot from them. I learned a lot, so you can also benefit.
Ma'am, how to manage revisions one day before exam?
So this as well. So do not keep, basically keep revising again and again. Do not keep revisions towards the end of the exam. So like I said, I always had a thumb rule, anything that I write, my notes should be revised thrice before going to the exam. So I followed the spaced repetition technique. Maybe you can just learn about that technique, it's very effective. So anything I study today, 1 week later, and then again from 1 week I'll pick it up and read. This way it stays longer. So you keep on revising continuously. Do not push your revision towards some day at the end, which will never come. And keep your sources and notes very crisp. That way you can manage it. If your sources and if your notes is too much, you won't even feel like revising it. So when you do everything by yourself, I mean when you own up the process, when you make your notes and everything, it becomes very interesting.
Ma'am, here.
When should you write answer writing practice? Whenever you feel comfortable, until then you can just keep looking at the copies. See, answer writing, we all studied till 10th class, no? We used to write answers there also. So suddenly coming here, answer writing is like something alien, but it's not. It's still answer writing. So first believe that you can. See, the idea that you asked me, when can I start? You already know how to write answers. You just have to practice answers for this set of questions. So whenever you feel comfortable to start writing answers, you start writing answers. Until then, look at answers written by some of the toppers so that you get an understanding of, okay, how answers should be written for this exam. Because writing answers, you obviously know, you wrote, school mein and then you graduated and stuff. So whenever you're comfortable, you can go ahead and write, but do practice. I'm telling you, let those first 100 crappy answers flow and get out of your way. The first question answer will be an improved answer, and thereon you'll only go up. But don't be scared of those first 100 crappy answers.
Ma'am, here. Ma'am, if we are reading some things, going through some subject, we find that we are missing something at the same point that should be read. So how to deal with that FOMO, ma'am?
I did not understand.
like if we are studying polity, and at the same time we are feeling that in modern history I have to read that topic because it will fetch more marks, then it creates a like fear of missing out something.
Right.
Then how to deal with that FOMO, ma'am?
Okay, so this FOMO will also be always be there. So just put it aside for once and you stick to your basics, whatever you have read, and the rest, whatever you have to cover, you will cover through the test series. So actually the test series people, they are making things easy for us. They are going to get us, you know, some obscure things, some important things, everything in a paper. So you attempt there. If you know you attempt, you do not know, you come back home and you see, okay, this is something, you know, that I can learn from this test series. You can make a note that you can.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, regarding the test series, which you mentioned that we should first go for sectional test series and then full length. So, is it for pre-test series or for the answer one?
Pre, I was talking about. Even for the mains, you can pretty much use the formula. You can use the sectional test to revise and finish the syllabus, even for mains, and then you can start attempting the full length test.
Because as I have heard from other toppers, they are told that they start their preparation before 3 or 4 months before the pre, and before that they prepare for mains. So it's right to start with the pre-test series in the month of September, October, kind of.
Generally, I did pre-test series only 2 months before prelims. Until then, I did not touch prelims, anything to do with prelims. And in the rest of the periods, it was only mains test series. So sectional tests and then full length tests, whatever I felt like practicing.
Okay, thank you.
So my suggestion is just go through the syllabus of all the optionals, whichever you find interesting, which you think is manageable, and look at the length of the syllabus, look at how direct are the questions, look at the trend of marks in the recent years. Just look at everything and decide it's okay, irrespective of what background you're from, you can pick up any subject and study. That much we can do. We graduated, right? So this much we are capable of. Even if you're from an engineering background, you can study history if you know how to study and if you're interested in that subject a little bit. There are people who score with any optional. So it becomes scoring for you when you find this, interesting and stuff.